Sifter for the ear.
News, interviews, reviews, cinema, TV, streaming. Action.
Hi, y'all. This is Jerry Williams, a.k.a. TV Jerry. The Marvels of Media Festival is the first festival to provide a platform for autistic media makers. It'll include screenings and panel discussions from April 1st to 4th at the Bird Theater, and I'll have a link on the webpage for this show at TV Jerry.
Yeah, I started writing this movie without a real sense of place, and I kind of thought it would maybe be a big sci-fi epic on some other planet. But as I wrote, it really became apparent to me that Florida is weirder than any planet that you could make up.
That was today's guest, Julian Glander, talking about why he chose to set his film in Florida. Julian is an accomplished designer, illustrator, and animator whose first feature, Boys Go to Jupiter, is showing at this year's Richmond Animation Festival, which runs April 25th and 26th. He'll be here for the screening on April 26th at the Bird, and the animated shorts program will show on the 25th at Studio 23. Julian will be talking about everything from starting his film with the Dionne Warwick quote, to getting actors like Janeane Garofalo to contribute their voices, to attending the Independent Spirit Awards.
Sifter Review of the Week.
Love Story, John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette on Hulu. Much has been said about the discrepancies in the truth of this series, but ultimately it doesn't matter. As the title suggests, this is simply a beautiful love story. Sarah Pidgeon and Paul Anthony Kelly play the famous ill-fated couple, and their chemistry is magic from their first encounter. Kelly has the necessary charisma and assured good looks to make him believable, while Pidgeon's sultry allure is continually captivating. There are other cast members who also do equally good work, including Grace Gummer as Caroline, Naomi Watts as Jackie, and Dree Hemingway, who does an impressive job channeling Daryl Hannah. Of course, the challenges of fitting into the Kennedy clan and the perils of media attention add to their conflicts, but in the end, it's about the couple's magic. It helps that the writing is smart. Since Ryan Murphy is behind the series, you can expect some mild sensationalism. But even if this were all fiction, it would still be one of the best screen romances of the year. I gave Love Story, John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette 4 out of 5 stars. Julian Glander, welcome to Sifter for the Ear. And I have to ask you, first of all, can you still recite the alphabet backwards?
I haven't done it since
It's been 4
I
years.
was on Jeopardy. Oh my God, it has been 4 years.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I could do it right now off the top of my head. I practiced it a lot before I was on Jeopardy. And then after I filmed the Jeopardy episode, a lot of knowledge sort of left my brain. It was like pulling a plug on a bathtub. I was like, I will never need to know the second largest city in every state ever again. So I'm deleting it to make room in the cache.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's good. Okay, well, it was worth a try. Obviously, from the fact that you're an artist and illustrator, you must have been starting as a little kid. You were drawing and your parents were like, okay, this kid's going to be an artist. Is that how you started?
Actually, no. I think I spent most of the beginning of my life not thinking I was going to be an artist or ever really knowing that that was a possibility. And I also was really bad at drawing. I think working in 3D animation is actually a lot more, it has a lot less to do with drawing. And it has a lot more in common with like playing with Legos or playing computer games. And those are things that I did a lot of as a kid. So it is true. And I mean, this is something that shows up in the movie a lot. The things of your childhood kind of never go away from you, and they often come back in very unexpected ways.
Good point. So how did you finally say, hey, I think I'm going to do this animation thing?
I loved cartoons. I've always loved cartoons. I think everyone as a child obviously has a very special connection with cartoons. And for some people, it stays with them. I studied advertising in school.
Where was that?
This is at Boston University.
Okay.
And I was this was the Mad Men era. And I was sort of on track to be a copywriter and drink martinis all day and have a ping pong table in my office. Immediately when I got started in that field, I just knew I wasn't cut out for it. But through working at a couple different ad agencies, I met illustrators and worked with illustrators and just fell in love with like the lifestyle of it, the freedom that they had and the way that they were able to sort of like find a style and express themselves. And so I learned illustration and animation from YouTube basically, and started posting on Tumblr when that was like a very dominant place to share art. Things just seemed to keep stumbling forward for me somehow.
Obviously, we're going to talk about Boys Go to Jupiter, which is going to be coming to the festival. But I wanted to ask you first, in your resume, it's got listed Disney, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon. Obviously, some of those are animations you've done. What kind of work were those? Were those really high-profile, cool things?
I wouldn't say high profile, but they are cool things. I think as an independent animator, I've sort of always had one foot into what's going on in the industry, it's specifically in Hollywood. As an example, like one of the Cartoon Network projects I did was I guest directed a sequence on this show called The Amazing World of Gumball.
Footnote.
The Amazing World of Gumball was an animated sitcom on the Cartoon Network about a 212-year-old cat and his goldfish brother.
It was a show that I didn't realize how popular it was. I think if I had known kind of what a big deal it was to get this gig, I would have maybe cracked under the pressure. But I still like will get comments on Boys Go to Jupiter that are like, this looks like that 1 2 minute segment of this Amazing World of Gumball episode from 10 years ago. I have a very distinct style and a distinct way of producing. And it's always amazing and fun when it can slot into like a bigger kind of corporate apparatus like that.
Let's go to Jupiter now with the boys. First of all, that title, explain what that means, because there's not really any outer space in this movie.
No, there's not. That is a little bit of a spoiler, but
Oh,
I think
I'm not supposed to say that?
no, it's fine. This is something that I thought was universally known, but I'm realizing it's actually very maybe generational and regionally specific. There's a schoolyard chant that says, "Girls go to college to get more knowledge, boys go to Jupiter to get more stupider." So that's one level to it, and then there is a sort of sci-fi cosmic element to the movie. But then the third piece of it is that there is a town in Florida called Jupiter, and the movie doesn't really take place in any one specific part of Florida. It's sort of this general imagined Florida, and I kind of pulled from all over the state. But it's just a nice little, another little bow on it for the people who have spent a lot of time down there and would know Jupiter.
So why Florida? Because you're obviously in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I started writing this movie without a real sense of place, and I kind of thought it would maybe be a big sci-fi epic on some other planet. But as I wrote, it really became apparent to me that Florida is weirder than any planet that you could make up.
Good point. Good point.
Surprise guest drop in.
Since you're coming to the festival, I've got somebody who's dropping in to say hello to you.
Hey.
Wow, this is a fun surprise. Cool.
Footnote.
Dash Shaw and his wife Jane created the animated film Crypto Zoo, which is now on Hulu. And I'll include my podcast with them talking about their movie on the webpage for this show at TV Jerry.
Well, I'm going to jump to this first question, and then I'll go back and ask you about the festival. But I noticed in the thank yous, I always watch all the credits, you do thank Dash. What's that about?
Well, I had to for many reasons. One, he is a big career inspiration of mine. I saw his first feature, My Entire High School Singing to the Sea, when it came out. And it was really the first time that it clicked for me that you could make an animated feature in your house or with a really small group or without this big, massive industrial process behind you. And I loved his approach to voice acting and casting the most. So after that, I started bugging him a lot, and he was a sort of a guiding voice throughout the production of the film, a mentor, therapist, Jedi master. I'm not sure what you would call it, but he helped me out a lot making this movie. It's so fun to finally, it's just kind of like, this festival, I think, will probably be my last like thing with the movie. It's been on tour at festivals and in theaters for a long time, and it's on streaming. And I think the Richmond Animation Festival will be like a place to say goodbye to it. And so it's very cool to do that with Dash.
That was nice of Julian to say. Thank you. I think it was exaggerating a bit.
Well, you've seen his animation style. It's kind of exaggerated too. So maybe he comes by it naturally.
There you go.
Very nice of him to say. We're very, very happy and lucky to have Julian coming to Richmond for this. I think it'll be a really, really awesome way to see his movie. It looks fantastic on a big screen. It'll be cool in an old 1920s theater.
That's the bird, obviously.
The laughs in the movie will be contagious in that space. And so, the more packed in it gets, the more the laughs will be able to travel, as Julian, I'm sure, has experienced.
The new theaters, the chairs are too far apart. So people can't hear each other when they're sitting in the big recliners. So you need strategic plants in the audience at specific locations to sort of ignite the laughs.
So if you know that you and your friend are a big laughers, try to just sit a little away from each other and just kind of, Yeah, we're just very, very lucky to have him. And Julian's super entertaining in person. And so I think the Q&A will be great.
Well, now, it looks like the poster was also designed by Julian. Did you just pull some of his work, or did you design that for us?
Oh, that's special for you guys. The poster is sort of a blobby take on the classic Edward Muybridge horses galloping.
Footnote.
Edward Muybridge was an English photographer who studied motion with numerous successive quick photos, most famously the ones of horses running.
The day that we posted it online, it also happened to be Chinese New Year, the year of the horse, which I wasn't thinking about at all. But
Oh, you should take credit for it. Come on, Julian.
I think,
Which I
let's
planned
go
on
ahead and just
purpose.
lie. Let's get media trained here. I
There you
planned that
go.
year of the metal horse.
Well, Dash, anything else you want to say? I know you got to dash off here at some point, but anything else you want to say to Julian before he goes away and starts talking more about going to Jupiter?
Just about the festival itself, we had prior done it one day long, and it was just a long time to sit. So this year we're doing the first half Saturday. That's the shorts program at Studio 23. And that'll be cool. That'll be a different crowd than the bird crowd. So that's at 7 o'clock on Saturday. And then Sunday, 7 o'clock is Julian's thing at the bird. And they're separate tickets. So you got to get the shorts program ticket from Studio 23. The Richmond Animation Festival Instagram will link to both of the tickets.
Right. And I'll have a link on the website too.
Then Julian's will be just his movie. And then we'll have the Q&A after. And then after that, we usually all go to New York Deli, which is right next door to the bird, and they have their rooftop open to us. And so that's ideally one of the highlights of the festival, because people will drive from outside of Richmond, animators, and they get to meet there and talk to each other. You know, this is our 4th year, and like with everyone at home and all of these streaming things, like this could be a real chance to meet like-minded. Just the fact that you would be interested in the Richmond Animation Festival and come means you have something in common. So please, like, come and talk to a stranger at the New York Deli after.
What's going on with your latest project? You and Jane working on something?
Yes, I think it's going to roll out at some point this year.
Well, Dash, it's great to see you again and all your hair. Congratulations, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the festival.
Yeah, thanks for popping in. That was such a sweet surprise.
Thanks.
And he's gone. There we go.
And he's gone, just like that.
So let's go back here a little bit. First off, the very first thing in Boys Go to Jupiter is a quote from Dionne Warwick. What inspired that?
Okay, yeah. So the quote is from Do You Know the Way to San Jose? The line is, weeks turn into years, how quick they pass, and all the stars that never were are parking cars and pumping gas. I love a line like that that's sort of so poetic and dreamy and wispy, and then like thuds to the ground at the end with the image of parking cars and pumping gas. And it was something that I had in the script and in the early materials that I sent out to the cast, just as a setting the tone, because a lot of what the movie is about is this sort of cosmic Americana, but also this sense of what do you do in this country or in your life when your dreams don't come true and then you still have the rest of your life to live out. It was a late addition to the movie, though. For the first 6 months of screening it at festivals, I didn't have the quote at the front, and I thought it was just like a little flourish, and it shows up on sort of a billboard with some trees flapping in the wind, just as a sort of a way to lead you into the movie, I guess. I think I haven't actually had any chances to talk about the quote because so much happened in the movie that I think by the end, everyone's forgotten about it.
Yeah, right. Well, I make notes while I'm watching, so that helps. And it's Hal David and Burt Bacharach, because they wrote the song.
You know, I kicked around who to credit a lot on this one. I knew that no matter what I did, someone was going to be unhappy. And I even thought about just putting like a tree or something in front of the name so that...
Oh, you can change. Yeah. Right. That'd be funny.
Yeah.
You said you made this movie primarily in Blender, and apparently Blender is something you use a lot. Tell us what Blender is and how that works.
Sure. It's a very incredible and fun and free open source 3D modeling and animation software. I think it's become a little more famous in the last couple of years because of the movie Flow, which was also animated in Blender. I just love using it. I always feel like I'm playing a video game, like I'm playing The Sims or Animal Crossing and just making things happen. And one thing that was really great in the production of this movie was the sort of massive community around Blender. Every single day during production, I was watching YouTube tutorials and even like talking to people in the forums and on Reddit, like trying to figure things out. I think for a long time in live action film, we've had this thing that people say like, oh, you can make a movie on your iPhone now. Like, oh, you have all the tools to make a movie with your friends. Animation is different in a lot of ways, but I think we are getting to that moment where we're catching up. And as animators, again, I look at Dash's movies as inspiration here, but it's like if you love storytelling and you love making images and you love putting things together, like we are in such a special moment where it's kind of all available for free or cheap.
And I have to mention, because you said that, the evil AI word.
Yeah.
What's your opinion? I didn't want to get into that because that could go on for days, but are you open to that idea at some point to help you design or create or animate, or you want to?
A lot has changed in the 4 years since I started making this movie in the world of AI. I was excited about it. I thought this is great. This is going to really help speed things up. What I found with all the different kind of AI variants that I tried was that they just, I think we're all coming to this realization. The AI can do like good work, can do passable work, but that's not really good enough for a creative person. Just as an example, like I needed to make English subtitles for the movie, closed captions. I used an AI for that, and they came back, and it was kind of a mess. If I didn't care, it would have been like okay to turn something like that in. But when there's a word wrong in every sentence, and then it takes me twice as long to clean it up as it would to type out the stuff, I'm remaining just like kind of not thinking about it that much. I mean, we made this movie without AI in the end. I tried a couple things, but nothing AI really has touched the final product. And I think if it was so great, we would be seeing a lot of great animated movies that were made with AI. So I have to sit there and wonder, where are they, and are they ever coming? And in the meantime, I have my own life to live, and my own fulfillment that I get out of doing the work.
I don't know if you noticed, I sent you the links to a couple of those movies, the animated films. The one, Powell, the indigenous filmmaker, in the end of his movie says, no AI was used in the making of this movie.
Well, I think it's going to become sort of a brand thing, or like a mark of quality to say that you didn't use it. Because in a world where there is so much of it coming out, I think we're finding out very quickly that people would rather have the imperfect things with the human touch on them than the stuff that these AIs generate.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's true. We could talk about this forever, but I find that I really don't have that much to say about it. I don't know. I'm just kind of, it's just like, it's just technology that's happening kind of outside of my realm of consciousness right now.
You mentioned cast, and you have an incredible Sarah Sherman, Julio Torres, Cola Scola, Janine Garofalo. How did you manage to land all these people? There's some big names in there.
Yeah, very lucky, I guess.
Any of them have a specifically interesting story that would be fun to tell?
Julio, for example, I had worked on a kid's book with him. I had done the illustrations for a children's book that he had written a few years ago.
Oh, cool.
So he was sort of an easy person to ring up and say, can you come to the booth for an hour? It was a lot of that. It was a lot of either friends of friends or just reaching out on Instagram. The hardest person to get was Janine Garofalo, because she does not have a cell phone or a computer.
Oh, goodness.
Which I love. I'm obviously so jealous of that. I guess she has an agent or manager or somebody working for her that once a week prints everything out and physically takes all her emails to her house, and she goes through them.
Wow.
So that was, I mean, just like, oh, imagine how good your life could be if you had someone else doing your emails for you and you never had to look at a screen. It's so the opposite of my life experience. Yeah. But she came in, and animation is very low commitment for a voice actor. It's like, I said up front to her, like, hey, this is going to be 3 hours. I don't need you to do any work beforehand. I don't need to send you any references. I know you can do this. She came in with a total pro, notes all over the script.
Wow.
Understanding of the character's backstory. And it really, well, I'm such a fan. I have grown up loving her in Mystery Man and Reality Bites and Truth About Cats and Dogs. And then she brought it.
Great. I wanted to ask you, you were at Tribeca in 2024, and I've interviewed Bird in Hand or Griffin in Summer. Do you remember either one of those movies being there?
I met Nicholas from Griffin in Summer. We sat next to each other at the Tribeca brunch. So yeah, I did see it and loved it. Yeah.
Footnote.
Griffin in Summer was a comedy that also played at Tribeca, and I'll include a link to my interview with director Nicholas Collier on the webpage for this show. Tell me about the music on the show. There's quite a few songs on there.
Yeah, it's sort of a stealth musical. I have found that the people who love musicals kind of don't love this movie, maybe. and people who are like, I hate musicals, are probably more likely to love it. So we haven't really been advertising it that way. I think there's like 8 or 9 musical numbers in the movie. My producer on this movie is my best friend Payson, and we have been working together for more than a decade. And the way we started working together was we were in a band together. I think we brought a lot from the sort of DIY music world into the making of this movie, just in terms of an attitude and an approach. And the sound of the band was also kind of in the movie. I mean, there's a sonic palette to the movie that's very lo-fi and fuzzy. And I think part of it is it's a teenage feeling, a summer Florida feeling of things being sort of hazy, like an ice cream truck in the distance. And as it happens to sound a lot like the music that I listened to in high school. I think that was kind of just not intentional, but kind of unavoidable.
And shocker, there was frontal nudity.
A little bit. And that's another thing that actually,
very little bit, literally.
I would say it's a tasteful, cartoonish nude scene. The main character is taking a shower, and he in that area, there's this sort of like black squiggle. My inspiration there, this is going to be a little strange, but it was from the Charlie Brown animations.
Oh,
there are some moments in the Charlie Brown specials where, like, if Charlie Brown is trying to express himself and he can't, his face like goes away and just turns into this like dark scribble. And I just love that approach to cartooning where it's like, oh, this is like, you can't really do this in live action. Like, there's just something there that you don't know what it is. But in this movie, it flies past you in about 2 seconds.
Yeah. That was fun to see that anyway. I looked at your reel or your website, and you've got lots and lots of work, and all of it has that same globby kind of funky style. Is that your thing permanently? There, you don't want to try any other styles, or is that the way you love it? And I mean, it's great. I'm just saying.
I'm stuck with it. I'm not sure at this point. I think of it more as just a visual language that's very useful for me.
What had inspired you to make the globby look like that?
I think a lot of it is, again, goes back to the animation that I grew up loving, which is classic stop motion, Gumby, Frog and Toad, the California Raisins. I always really loved the kind of animation that felt very touchable, but also felt very honest, where you kind of knew what you were looking at, or you know, if you pause the frame, you could see how they were kind of tricking you. Like, I love when Three Circles is a snowman, you know, in like the Rudolph specials, or I love when you can see that someone just laid out a big sheet of styrofoam and that's supposed to be the landscape. So it's sort of like, I would say it's sort of a digital take on that approach to image making. Yeah.
And you got nominated for the John Cassavetes Independent Spirit Award. And I watch that show, the Spirit Awards, every year. They're the most fun award show. Did you actually get to go down there on Santa Monica on the beach?
I did. I went. It's not at the beach anymore. They moved it because of the Olympics.
Footnote.
The Independent Spirit Awards, as it sounds, has been honoring the best independent filmmakers since 1999. And the John Cassavetes Award goes to a film with a budget less than $1 million.
I'd never done anything like that before. Like, and I was on the fence about going all the way out to LA. And I was kind of, my wife was like, this is never going to happen again, so you should just do it.
Sure.
It was like, it's like a wedding. You know, you go, you have cocktails, you get seated at a table, everyone does their speeches, and then there's a crazy after party. Just a blast. And I was a bit starstruck.
I was going to say, who did you get to talk to?
I'm not much of the kind of person who goes up to celebrities or anyone. Ava Victor was there, who's in the movie, so it was great catching up with them. One table away from me was Kirsten Dunst and Jesse Plemons.
Oh, wow.
And then at the other table on the other side of me was Joel Edgerton. And I was really, I mean, it's really fun to see these people in person after your whole life. What I found was when they were up on the stage, I kept looking at the Jumbotron.
Right.
Like, you know, there's flanked by Jumbotrons on each side. And I was like, I kept telling myself, like, stop looking at the Jumbotron. Look at this is your only chance to look at Kaya Gerber. Like, just look at her in person. Like, stop looking at the screen.
We all do that.
Well, maybe there's some social commentary there. I don't know. But I had a blast. And I got to meet all the other John Cassavetes nominees, and all those films are great as well. So a real unexpected treat. I mean, not something that when I started out that I ever thought was going to happen with this movie.
So what's next? Have you got another feature, another 4 years to commit?
Okay, this is where my media training falls apart, because I don't have a good answer for this at all. I have found that it's very bad luck to talk about a project before it's announced.
Good point.
Yeah, I'm working on another movie, but at the same time, my entire career has had this sort of bouncy feeling to it, where I've gone from TV to a video game to a book to comics to something else. And I find that it's very good for the brain and for the work to sort of rotate through things. My creative hero, who's also thanked in the movie, is Miranda July. And I really I love the way she does that, where it's like you just don't know what the next thing is going to be.
Footnote.
Miranda July is an American film director, writer, actor, and author who works across many genres, including live performance art.
But what I will say is it's going to be a while. This stuff takes a long time. So if anyone's out there waiting for my next project, just go back and watch Boys Go to Jupiter again.
There you go.
Just come to Richmond and watch it on the big screen, because it's going to be your last chance for a while to see something of mine up there.
And one question I always like to ask everybody at the end, when you're not working on your own projects, what have you been watching lately? And it doesn't have to be something animated, something on streaming or a movie in the theaters.
Okay, a lot of people are talking about this one, but I have to talk about it as well. I watched the Nirvana the Band the Show movie the other day.
I reviewed it. What'd you think? I didn't know who they were.
I didn't either. I went into it totally blind, and a friend of mine was like, you got to see this. I was completely spun around by it. I mean, I think it's such again, so inspiring to just see. I feel like as the major studios fall apart, we are seeing a lot of filmmakers who are pushing what a movie is, not just from a storytelling standpoint, but from a production standpoint, of like the whole way that they went to Drake's house because there was a camera crew there and like made an active news event like a part of their story. I just like, that's the kind of stuff that makes me want to just go out and make more movies. Yeah, I walked away from that one just buzzing with just like the possibilities of filmmaking.
Footnote.
I'll post a review to Nirvana on the webpage for this show at TV Jerry.
Well, Julian, this has been great to get a chance to meet you and to catch up and find out more about Boys Going to Jupiter. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jerry. I'll see you pretty soon in the flesh in Virginia.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
That was Julian Glander, whose first feature, Boys Go to Jupiter, is showing at this year's Richmond Animation Festival, which runs April 25th and 6th. He'll be here for the screening on April 26th at the Bird, and the animated shorts program will show on the 25th at Studio 23. Of course, I'll have a link to all this on the website for this show at TV Jerry.
Coming soon. In theaters.
Super Mario Galaxy Movie. The video game plumber ventures into space, exploring cosmic worlds far from his familiar Mushroom Kingdom. The Drama. Yet another marriage that goes sideways, starring Zendaya and Robert Pattinson. A Great Awakening. Cashing in on our country's 250th anniversary, this is the story of the friendship between Reverend George Whitfield, Jonathan Blair, and Benjamin Franklin, John Paul Sneed. Faces of Death. Not to be confused with the old Faces of Death videos that showed real people facing death. This is a fictional film about a website content moderator who comes across a series of violent videos reproducing death scenes.
TV and streaming.
XO Kitty on Netflix. A new love story unfolds when teen matchmaker Kitty reunites with her long-distance boyfriend at the same boarding school attended by her late mother. Pizza Movie on Hulu. High school students face an unexpected epic journey when they must navigate 2 flights of stairs to retrieve their pizza delivery, turning a simple task into a surreal adventure. Your Friends and Neighbors on Apple. John Hamm returns as the hedge fund manager who's got a secret life as a burglar. High Tides on Netflix. This new season follows a group of teenagers who spend the summer at a Belgian seaside while searching for love and friendship. I'm headed out of the country for a vacation, yes, another one. So when I get back, the first 2 shows will feature Phil Trumbo talking about working on Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Steve Siegel talking about working on Toy Story 1 and 2. This is Jerry Williams. See you on April 29th.
For more Sister, including literally thousands of reviews,
Visit tvjerry.com.
That's a wrap.